After so many years, hounded by hatred and trapped by fear, I'm in a box. I've got no place to go. If I follow my mind, I know I'll slaughter my own. Help me, I'm the prisoner. Won't you hear my plea? I need somebody, yeah, to listen to me. I beg you, brothers and sisters, I'm counting on you, yeah. Black babies in the womb, shackled and bound, chained by the caveman who keeps beauty down, smacked on the ass when they are squalling and wet. And to a spineless man who never forgets, never forgets that he's a prisoner. Can't you hear my plea? 'Cause I need somebody, Lord knows, to listen to me. I'm a stranger to my son who wonders why his daddy runs, yeah. On my way to work in the morning when I don't give a damn. Can't nobody see just who in hell I am. Hemmed in by a suit, yes, or choked up in a tie. Ain't no wonder sometimes, dear morning, I hear my woman cry. She knows her man is a prisoner. Won't you hear my plea? Yeah, 'cause I need somebody, whoa, to listen to me. My woman, she don't say, but she hates to. Yeah. Help.
Peace and love. Once again, welcome to the NEPPC podcast. I'm Brother Frank, and I'm with former political prisoner
Abdul Haq Islam. Peace and love.
Yes, today we honor the uprising in Attica that occurred September 9th, 1971, and it ended in that same year of September 13th. And right, we use the word very importantly, commemorate, right? Because it's not a time where we celebrate that, but when we commemorate, meaning that we observe it, we look at it for inspiration to fight.
Analysis.
Right, and then historical analysis, exactly, because we understand the importance that event has on us now. Because when we think about the uprising, we're thinking about a time where people said enough is enough, right? Human beings said we will not tolerate not being treated anything other than human beings. And when we look at the conditions of our brothers who were incarcerated in Attica, those were deplorable conditions, subhuman conditions. And they said that enough is enough. They decided that they were going to come together and get busy and take matters into their own hand. And that's exactly what they did, right? Because we look at a facility, a prison industrial complex system. This particular facility was built for about 1,600 inmates, right? But yet they had over 2,000 inmates there. So it was overpopulated. So you can imagine it was overpopulated, understaffed, and then they had but so many resources to accommodate all those people there. So this led to people understanding that something had to be done, and it had to be done immediately, because these conditions they could not live in anymore, to keep their sanity. You think one of the demands that they were making were one roll toilet paper for each inmate for a month. That's crazy. And they wanted more than just one shower a week for inmate. And also they wanted to address their visiting situations. And I think that those are reasonable demands.
Medical.
Right. So,
medical, yeah.
And so they had 30 demands, and out of the 30, 28 were met. So when we look at this and we look at it and we ask ourselves, how does it relate to political prisoners? Well, political prisoners, as we said, were people who stand up to a repressive and oppressive system. And because they stand up to it, they met with some backlash, right? The system counterattacks their maneuvers on the system because a political prisoner said that there's no reasoning with a system like this. There's no reform. There's only a revolution. There's only a complete structural change of a system that continuously profits off of oppression and exploitation of people, common people struggling for food, clothing, and shelter. So when we came together and decided to salute, commemorate the uprising in Attica, we said that we need to educate the people on it. We ask that you like, that you share with 10 others, and let's have a continuous discussion on what occurred 51 years ago and how that impacts the work we are doing now, because political prisoners need to come home. They don't need to die in prison. If you are for justice, then you are for the release of political prisoners, because the political prisoner must be inserted into the talk of justice, of social justice. And that's exactly why when we have moments to commemorate historical moments like the Attica uprising, right? We got to call it an uprising because that's exactly what it is. Don't let nobody define our historical references, our historical moments in world history and history of humanity when it deals with progression and methods in which we progress. And that's exactly what the uprising in Attica is. It's a movement in the advancement of man to make the world a better place. You can't just make the world a better place by not willing to accept the challenge, not committing yourself to accept that you have to take some action around the changes that you want. You have to commit yourself to the struggle. Brother Hot, your points?
Yeah, peace and love out there, brothers and sisters. You know, we are in a state of war, you know, with this system, with these racists, with these oppressors, with these criminals, you know, and we have been in a state of war, you know, since the first enemy, you know, some of our people are described as devils, have set foot on the African continent to kidnap us and bring us here, you understand, as captives, you know, to be exploited, you know, to be brutalized, to be disrespected, you know, to be ripped. You know, we've been in a state of war, you know, so it's very important that we understand that that is our relationship because of propaganda, you know, through the newspapers, the media, the talk shows, movies, the music, you know, and other forms. You know, some of us might think that we in a fashion show or hip hop contest or party, but we've been in a war, you know, and it's been a very, very hostile state of aggravated war that we've been in with this enemy. And at times it results in uprisings. And Attica, one of the uprisings, you know, and because of uprising, because of percentages of our population who have resorted to resistance, the enemy does not want us to have a real and correct understanding of our history. They don't want us to understand. I mean, they got to put about a two sentences or maybe one paragraph in the book about it, but they don't want the real deep understanding of the cruelty, the violence, you know, the pain and torture that's been inflicted upon our people, because that will tend to create activists and resistors, you know, and rebels among our students. So they don't want us to know, you know, what they've done to us, you know, but indeed, you know, as some of us have said, some of our leaders have described these folks as devils, and indeed, the Quran says that the first racist was Shaitan. Shaitan say, I am better than you, you know, And this has always been the position of these races, these Ku Klux Klan mentality type people, that they are better than us, and prisons have been like a magnet of employment for these type of individuals, where they can be their real selves, without too much problem, without too much opposition. They can do what they want to do, the oppression, to take away your rights, to mistreat you, to brutalize you, to be violent, in every state I've gone in, I don't care how far north it is. There's always some hills and some mountains around there where the people talk just like this, I don't care how far they talk just like this, and it attracts those Ku Klux Klan mentality people, So in Attica, there was an uprising, which was inspired by the actions of Comrade George Jackson and Jonathan Jackson, you understand, who made a strike for freedom, and shortly after that, Attica occurred, horrible conditions, like the enemy never wants you to know, what he did to our people. He always wants to pretend that he's so innocent, but when it comes to denying our rights, when it comes to protecting the illusion of white supremacy, he will even murder his own comrades, as he did in Attica, where they shot, indiscriminately and killed 10 corrections officers, along with 29 inmates, So this is a very, very violent and vile chapter in U.S. history. We must understand U.S. history for what it is and give a correct system analysis of what this is. It's a transnational armed robberies, and what happened with us in this in America was rape, robbery, and pillage, and we've had political prisoners who stood up, you understand, and resisted the fact that police and racists kill our people and get away with it scot-free, punishment. It's like they had a license to kill that they gave themselves, a license to murder our people, So we've had brothers and sisters that stood up against this and resisted, indeed, they are heroes. So our people must understand, that these are people who fought for our interests. Think about your interests. What is in your interest? Yeah. It is in your interest, for people to stand up and to fight for your rights, to stand up and fight for you, for your human rights, against a system that said that you are subhuman, that you should be treated like something subhuman, like a dog or something, like some cattle. You understand? That you should be, something to lay on the back, cut your throat and be somebody's meal, to be a happy meal, to be glad to be a meal. You understand? No, we stand up and resist and we fight back. And Attica was an instance where people did stand up and fight back. And somebody said, kind of sarcastically that, well, at least we got 2 rows of toilet paper out of it. But, they got a little bit more. They got education, improvement in visiting conditions. It slowed down some of the violence, medical improvement in medical care. So, even though they're trying to take college away from prisoners now, and there's a struggle to get the Pell Grants back, there was, through the sacrifice, there was a bit of reform, it wasn't always revolution like it needs to be. But, it must be seen and understood and analyzed as we look at history as a moment when our people stood up, and must be an inspiration for us to continue to stand up that is righteous and dignified, and that we have right to fight for our rights, and, as Black people, we must fight for Black power.
Absolutely right. We have to make sure that we know our history. We have to find inspiration from historical events such as the Attica uprising, and we use the word uprising as opposed to riots, right?
Correct.
Because uprising understands that there's organizations, there's leadership behind it, and there's understanding that there's an objective behind it. A riot is just spontaneity, right? Everybody's doing whatever they want, any particular area, without any concern about carrying out an objective, because there is no objective that has been established. Right now, I want to take time out to reflect on the definition of political prisoner, because when we leave this segment and you have it at your disposal, and you are circulating it amongst people, that discussion about a political prisoner must be clear and must be established, because you want to raise your consciousness about that idea, as so it can be distinguished from the concept of a prisoner, right? Because there's people who are in prison, right? These are people generally in prison because of social condition. Then there's political prisoners, people who are in prison because of their response to social conditions. So there's a difference between the two, and I think that difference has to be understood, and it has to be spoken on often. Political prisoners are people jailed on charges related to their resistance to oppression and repression, and targeted by the state for their political beliefs and or actions. So that's where it has to be a practice beyond a theory, right? Because we not going to get nowhere as a people if we sit behind a television, or we just on social media saying like, share. We have to get out and do something. So that's what political prisoners do. They organize people, they educate, agitate, and organize, right? Because they understand the recipe needed to produce the change that's in the interest of common people. So that's why we, the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition, myself, my brother, and former political prisoner Abdul Haq Islam, have made a commitment to doing this type of work, because we understand that we have to be consistent and diligent with this work. And that's why we ask, if you see us on the street, engage us. Let us have a conversation right in our community, so that we can walk away from that conversation with a clear understanding about what we need to be doing and why we need to be doing it, right? So many of us want to say that we're not political or we're not into politics, but yet and still they're told what time the bus is going to come, what quality of water they're going to have, and what time they can and cannot go to church or even play a particular instrument in their own community, right? Because some people might make a complaint about it's too loud, and then the state will come say, you are engaging in noise pollution, and here's a fine or ticket, or you have a summons.
But drumming in the park,
right? In our community, our community, right? So we have to understand the definition of politics. We have to be very clear, and we have to be inspired to participate in politics on any level possible, because one thing's going to happen, you're going to be forced. Like, I'm from Alphabet City, aka Lower East Side, and that community is going through a struggle where there's arsenic in the water. And for those who don't know, that's metal in the water, and that could lead to liver cancer, skin cancer.
Jackson, Mississippi.
And those issues are serious, right? And what will be your response? Will you say, "Oh, well, I'm not into politics," and you don't want to go to no demonstration, you don't want to sign no petition, and then now these conditions, they don't only affect you, but it affect your loved ones, and your loved ones are looking to you for answers, and that relates directly to our political prisoners, because our political prisoners are family members, right? Our political prisoners are family members that are waiting for us to bring them home, and we have to do that because it's necessary, right? You don't want to sit down and allow years to pass by without you expressing love to a loved one, right? Writing a letter to a loved one, or talking to a loved one, or being somewhere doing something to make sure that the ideas of that loved one have not died out. And I think that that's why it's very important for us to have this continuous discussion. As we say before, whether it's 100 or one person that watched, we did our work, we did our job. So we're asking anybody who's viewing at this particular time, please share with 10 people at least. Consider a donation of $1. Donate $1. That dollar could go a long way. We could get posters, flyers. We could do what we need to do to continue to put this idea out there. So in the spirit of the Attica uprising, we are doing our work, and we will continue to do our work. Abdul Haq Islam. I know that while you were incarcerated, it was after the Attica rise, but while you were incarcerated, what was the talk or discussions regarding to the Attica riot? I mean, uprising.
Well, I mean, we all experienced similar conditions, in the various prisons I've been in. And always, it is these fascist type of individuals, these haters. These people think they're better than somebody. They always, find their way in terms of employment into the prison system, and it seems like even in those areas were supposed to be the most humane treatment, like in medical and in educational. These are supposed to be places where people, liberal-minded people, seem to concentrate. But in prison, all that, everything takes on this Nazi type of atmosphere. So the prisoners that I've been around, that I socialized with, were the type of people, who stood up against oppression, who are activists, who did not adopt this lifestyle of sitting back on your dead behind, doing nothing, being scared to death, thinking that the enemy was God and ain't nothing that the enemy has the power of God and ain't nothing you can do about it, but sit there and suffer and tremble, like a scared mouse in the corner. This oppression is always breeded resistance. And resistance is righteous. And we say carry it on. Because it is just as intense today,
Yes.
as it was when we
Yes.
first came to America, as it was during the Attica uprising. It was during the times of the lynchings, the police murders. It's just as intense today as we have these lunatics that are organizing, that we saw come out on January 6th. You understand? These fascists, what 56 million of them voted for Trump, right? So we still got some work to do right now. We can't lay back and cross our legs and think that we have arrived. We got some serious work to do. You understand? Because these fascist, lunatic organizations are buying guns at an unprecedented rate. They out in the woods right now training to kill you. So we must be aware of the realities. You understand? It is right at us right now. You might open your door and an atomic blast come right in your door. You understand? Come from doing nothing, from the do nothing program. So we got to be active. We got to know about what has happened to our people. The resistance that they've come with. And what we must do today. You understand? In terms of what is right in front of our eyes that surrounds us. You understand? 360 every moment of our lives.
Yes, that's a very important point because we have to remain diligent and focused and be continuously educated. Because as we said, the assassination of George Jackson inspired the Attica uprising.
Correct.
And when we do the research on the Attica uprising, there was a particular area in the facility where it was welded. It was a flaw in the makeup in the structure. And
Times Square.
Right, Times Square. So to use that as an opportunity to take over, right? And I think that we can relate that to the time we're living in now, right? We have access to the internet. We have a way to make the world smaller than what it is by our ability to get on the internet and talk to people. You have the opportunity to have a podcast. You have the opportunity to set up a community page. There are a number of things that you could do to organize people, but just don't get comfortable with just doing something from the comfort of your cell phone or your computer, your laptop or your desktop, whatever you might have access to. But you have to get out there and be in the street amongst the people because that's where things are going on at. And that's where you have to have that dialogue, because people need to be able to make eye contact with you, understand that you're real, that you're not something living in the cyber world, that you are out there dealing with the same issues that they're dealing with. Because if we don't have a platform that we can see each other on, or rather, we don't see each other in the physical world where we are having eye-to-eye contact and have a dialogue where we are relating to each other's reality, then that takes away from our ambition or our need to actually participate in something that's going on right then and there. Because if I hear about your complaints about your job, I'm going to tell you about my complaints at my job. If I hear about your complaints about your housing situation, I'm going to complain to you about my housing condition, and so forth. And we're going to say, okay, you're dealing with that problem, I'm dealing with this problem. So we're not living in isolation. Actually, we're living in the same particular situation, and we have to find a way where we could come together and make things better for us. And I think that that's what the Attica uprising does. All these prisoners were facing the same thing. You have a roll of toilet paper, I have a roll of toilet paper for a month. Right. I could take a shower a week, you could take a shower a week. Oh, we dealing with the same bad conditions.
If you ask for more than one roll of toilet paper, you get a beat down.
Exactly. So you're dealing with the same consequences that I'm dealing with. So we have to deal with, how do we make this situation better?
Right.
Can we make this situation better? So we know that once we say, can we make this situation come to better for us, then we be like, okay, we have to do something. Okay, this is what I got to get to the table. What you got to get to the table? Okay, boom. Now we make a move, and we wait for that right opportunity, like the brothers in the Attica uprising did, and you don't hold nothing back. You put everything on the line, and that was our political prisoners they are freedom fighters. They put everything on the line, and being that they put everything on the line and they're incarcerated because of their commitment to a cause, we have to bring them home. And the only way we could do that is by being organized. Because in the words of Sunni Adakoli, the state don't free political prisoners, the people do. So we say, write to a political prisoner. The school year has started. Encourage your children to have a writing campaign for a political prisoner.
Remember Mutulu.
Right. Remember Mutulu. Have your children have a political prisoner to talk to the class about when they talk about heroes and they talk about sacrifices. Because it's always comfortable to talk about people like Nelson Mandela, right? The world praise him, right? But there's other political prisoners who are currently incarcerated who did twice as much time. People like Rochelle McGee, that needs to be talked about, because if I'm not mistaken, he's the longest held political prisoner. His story needs to be told continuously, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to have an opportunity to bring him home and not let him die in prison, by continuously talking about him and talking to people about him, so that they can feel like they should have some concern about this brother. As I use every opportunity at my job to talk about a political prisoner. I wear a button that expresses my concern about political prisoners. I wear my face mask to express my concern about a political prisoner, and the attempt to challenge my employer to challenge my view, because my position is that I'm a liberation theologist. And this is the expression of liberation theology. So this is my religion, and to challenge my religion is to challenge my right as a so-called citizen in the United States. And I should be able to express my religious belief, just like somebody of Islamic faith should have the right to express their religious belief, and then somebody of Christianity faith should have their right, and Judaism, so forth and so on. So me, as a liberation theologist, should have that same right. And I'm willing to go the full extent to express that right. And I think others should express that interest, because if you say you're a person of faith, if you say you stand on the idea or the concept that there's something that exists, that you identify as supreme being, then what does that supreme being stand on? What principles does that supreme being stand on? If that supreme being stands on the principle that injustice, shape, form, or fashion will not be tolerated, then the liberation of our political prisoners should be on your agenda. of what you need to be doing, what you need to participate on. And I think that when we talk about the uprisings in Attica, we're talking about brothers standing on principle, knowing that there's going to be some consequences. And that's why one of the demands was amnesty, right? They wanted to not be prosecuted for any participation in the uprising because it was a challenge to the system to declare themselves or accept them as human beings. And if so, then they needed to be treated as such. And them standing on that idea meant that they had the right to stand up for themselves.
Right.
So,
and they did not harm any of the prison guards. There was the initial news report from those who steal the narrative was that prison guard's throat was cut, but that was not true. Later on, it was discovered that the prisoners who took the hostages did not harm them at all, that they were killed by their own comrades who didn't get any prosecution for that.
all right, so I think everything we touched on today, we not trying to overload you with too much material. We want you to have enough to be able to give us enough of your time so that you can do your job. So you recognize this time of your day for a political prisoner. We ask that you share with 10 others, donate $1. We gave you the Cash App. That's Sefu Sankofa, SEFU SANKOFA. Donate $1. $1 could go a long way. So travel safe and take care of your mental health at all times. Be patient with yourself and those who you love. Brother Abdul Haq Islam, your closing words, my brother.
No, just love, love to the masses is that, those who engage in political struggle against this enemy, we do it out of love for the people, you understand, with consciousness of the interests of the people. So we, say to the people by way of education, think about what is in your interests, and understand that political prisoners fought because they love you, fought for your interests, So, let's be wise men and women, and support those who supported us, and love those who loved us, who fought for our interests. You dig? And so let's act upon our own righteous self-interest.
Right. So peace and love to everybody, and you know how we do it. With closing words from my brother in the struggle, Killer Mike.
Have to do this as well. And I have to give the credit to this idea, Miss Kathy Hughes of Radio 1. She's like, Michael, it is time that you guys organize a fund to set aside to help people who sacrifice for our freedom. Meaning, every time something happens, I hear this. Why don't the gang bangers jump up and do something for us? Why don't you kill them? You kill each other. And I say to myself, when is the last time you sent money to Asada Shakur? When is the last time you sent money to Matulu Shakur? When is the last time you sent money to Mamiya Abu Jamal or Larry Hoover or Jeff Ford or Leonard Peltier? When is the last time you have made it your business to send money to a revolutionary or a hoodlum that has helped us? And until we start to do that, how can we ask these young men to be warriors? Because if they do it in the name of the hood, at least the hood gonna honor their name always. At least the hood gonna make sure at least their children got something or their mama's house is looked after. As a community, if we're going to ask people to bungee jump for us with no cord, be prepared to take care of them when they get a life sentence. Be prepared to look after their families. See, I don't mind the work getting done, but let's take care of the workers. Let's stop asking more out of people than we would do for ourselves. So what I'd like to see, my dream thing, is to see 1 million people from the culture dedicate $10 a month. That's $10 million a month, $120 million a year toward taking care of civil rights leaders who have worked on our behalf and are elderly now and don't have to take care of themselves, like Rosa Parks, whose rent was paid by the owner of Little Caesars Pizza. We should have had a fund to make sure that she never had to worry about that again in her life. We should have a fund that makes sure money makes it to Asada Shakur. And Matulu Shakur has legal representation and food, and Leonard Peltier, who has diabetes in jail, can get insulin taken care of. And until we start doing it, $10 a month is about what you pay on a couple fast food restaurant visits. So if 1 million of us do that for the rest of our life, look at how well we'll be taking care of the people that we're asking to sacrifice on our behalf.
I agree, and recently